Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us this afternoon for the weekly webinar presented by Affinity Federal Credit Union. My name is Oscar Cordova, and I'm the External Affairs Specialist here at Affinity, in charge of the financial education efforts of the credit union for the areas that we cover. Today's topic is a brand new topic that will be presented today. The topic is 7 credit cards mistakes to avoid. It's important for us to understand this, as many of us may have credit cards, and it's you guys, everybody knows how important credit is and how hard it is to get a good credit score and a good credit profile, and how easy it is to ruin it all by making a late payment or being overdrawn or going over the limit. So I'm going to be talking about a couple of mistakes that can be avoided with credit cards just by us paying attention. All right, so with that said, let's go to the first slide. Quick disclaimer before we start. All of the information provided to all of you this afternoon, it's for information purposes only. It is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Everybody's circumstances are different, and if you want to talk to somebody in regards to something that you want to discuss on a one-on-one basis, I'll be more than happy to do that for any of you. All right. A couple of household items. The webinar is being recorded, so you guys will receive a link to rewatch this presentation this evening, and you guys can rewatch it as many times as you guys want, and share it with other family or friends. Okay. The other item that I wanted to cover, if you guys have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A option on your panel after the presentation or during the presentation, and I'll be more than happy to address those questions at the end. Okay, so let's start. A quick quote: if you don't take good care of your credit, then your credit won't take care of you. And that is only true. As I mentioned before, many of you guys know that we need to take good care of our credit, because credit is going to allow us and open doors for us once we're ready to buy that brand new vehicle that we're looking to upgrade to, or purchase a property. So all of those two items, which are high ticket priced items, 9 out of 10 times you need credit for, unless you have the whole amount of money liquid in your account, then you can buy the item outright. So in order for us to have good credit and be able to develop good habits to have a good credit profile, we need to take care of our credit cards and make sure that we use them correctly, make sure that we're always making our payments on time. So this is a quick introduction. Whether you just received your first credit card or already have a wallet full of plastic cards, full of other credit cards, we need to understand how credit cards work, and having this resource can work in our advantage. Having a credit card is not something that should be taken lightly. You know that credit cards are very useful, and more in times of an emergency. But with the same time, and I just taught this concept last week to a couple of high schools, and I was talking to a couple of seniors, and I explained to them that when you have a credit card, it's not money to be just spent, because eventually you need to make the payments back plus interest. So it's just they have to see credit or a credit card in the light of having something that conveniently can get them out of a hard situation, an emergency. But whenever they use a credit card, they must understand that payments need to be made. So it says here, if you're not careful, a credit card can also become a burden that can gobble up much of your paycheck. Credit cards can get out of hand very quickly. If you have 1 or 2 credit cards and you manage them correctly, it's not a challenge, but it does take a little bit of work to get used to sending that payment on time, keeping those balances under 30%, which is the rule of thumb to have good credit. So it takes a little bit of work. But imagine if you have 7, 8, 9 different credit cards, all of them at average or high interest rates, and then you're pretty much juggling different payments throughout the month. Then, as I mentioned here, a credit card can also pretty much gobble much of your paycheck, lower your credit score, and suck the enjoyment out of your life, because now you're going to be stressed about the payments, about where the money is going to come from, the fact that you maybe up to the limit or overdrawn. Okay, so we'll start with the different mistakes that we can avoid. Okay, so the first one is paying late, and this is kind of like that's a mistake that a lot of people may make, and sometimes I've made it. I've sent out a payment late, and it's just, oh, I overlooked the due date, and I was late. The problem with being late is not so much being late because of the fee. If you're late on a credit card, 9 out of 10 times you're gonna get assessed a fee, a late fee. But if you wait 30 days and you haven't sent that payment in, that's when your credit may be affected. That's when the actual billing cycle closes. And if there's no payment there, then now you're gonna be reported to the credit bureau. So being late just a couple of days is going to do absolutely nothing to your credit until the next due date comes around and you haven't made that payment. That's when your credit starts getting affected. So when you pay after the card's payment due date, the credit card issuer typically charges a late fee. It could be around $30, $35, sometimes $40. It averages around $35, $36. And if you're late only once, hey, and I've done this too. It's worth the shot to give the credit card company, the bank, or the credit union a call, explain the situation, explain perhaps why you were late, and many times they'll be able to reverse that late fee as a courtesy. I'm not gonna say it's going to happen every time, because I'll be lying. There may be credit card companies out there that their policy is just no refunds. But most of them, if you've never done it before, or if this is your first time doing it, that you send a late payment, they'll be able to reverse the fee as a courtesy. So it never hurts. But that will be the first mistake that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Avoid paying late. One of the ways that you guys can help yourselves in avoiding late fees is two ways. One, you guys can set up automatic payments through your online banking, or calling the creditor and letting them know that they can withdraw the money directly out of your account, and that's called an automatic payment. When that happens, you can rest assured that the payment is being made because you have previously authorized the creditor, or you have already set up everything on your online banking for the payment to be done automatically. So it's kind of like you're putting your payments on autopilot. The other way that you can actually avoid late fees or paying late is by grouping, which means that you can, if you, for example, myself, I get paid on the beginning of the month and the middle of the month. So what I've done is I've taken the due dates that best fit my budget, and I've grouped them together for the beginning of the month, and then I've made another group for the middle of the month. So what I've done is, for example, I have my mortgage, my car insurance, and 2 credit cards due at the beginning of the month. So I've called all of these people up. I know my mortgage is due the first 5 days of the month, but the other 3, the car insurance and the 2 credit cards, I've called them up and requested my due date to be on the 8th, around the 6th or 7th or 8th of the month, because I know by then I have already been paid and I have money on my account to make those payments and avoid late fees. Towards the middle of the month, I've called the other 3 credit cards that I have and my cell phone, and I called them up and I said, I want my due date to be around the 17th or 18th of the month, because I know on the 15th I get paid. And that way I know that I'll have money at the middle of the month to make those payments and avoid late fees. So those are 2 different ways that you can actually implement in your finances to avoid late fees. Grouping due dates to make things organized, and also using technology in your favor, which is doing an automatic payment. Okay. Second mistake, making only minimum payments. So who benefits? Who do you guys think benefits when you do minimum payments? Well, the people who benefit are the bank or the financial institution, because just a $500 balance on your credit card, if you just do the minimum payment, is going to take you over 6 years to pay it off. Imagine 6 years to pay off a $500 account, and then you're going to end up paying about, the total amount of payments is going to be close to $800. So who wins when you make the minimum payment? The credit card companies, the finance companies. Also the length of time. So as I mentioned before, if you only make minimum payments, it will take a very long time for you to get rid of those balance. Who wants to be in debt for extended periods of time? I don't think anybody wants that. So you want to make more than that minimum payment as much as you can. If you can afford $10 more, it's something. But if you just do the minimum payment, actually, as a matter of fact, a federal law a couple of years ago passed, where credit card companies need to disclose, and that's my third bullet point here, the statement disclosure, need to disclose in their credit card statement how long it will take you to pay your balance if you only make the minimum payment. And that law came into place because people needed to know how long it would take, the length of time that they will need paying, and at the end of the day, how much more money they'll be paying in interest. So let's try to make a little bit extra every time we make that monthly payment. All right. All right. Next, carrying the week with cash advances. Okay. When you're shorting cash, and with the pandemic, a lot of people were in that situation. People that got their hours cut, people that got laid off. When you're shorting cash, and perhaps you're short in with your expenses during the week, and your payday hasn't arrived, it's tempting to like head over to the ATM and take a cash advance out of your credit card. And I've been in that position as well. It's tempting. And usually when I get a credit card, I usually avoid setting up that PIN number. Every credit card can allow you to have a PIN number where you can actually withdraw money out of an ATM. I usually don't do that because I know it's a temptation. So I usually don't set it up. But it's a feature available to all of you. So you have to be careful when you're tempted to go to the ATM and take cash out of your credit card. Because what happens is that you typically pay much more than the cash advance amount in fees and interest. Now, the credit card company may charge up to $20 or more in upfront fees when you take a cash advance. So that will be the cash advance fee. It could be $20, it could be more than $20, just for the transaction. And not only that, so the interest rate for cash advances in many cases is higher than the interest rate that you use when you purchase something. So let's try to like take that temptation out of our hands. Let's try not to think about credit cards as a way to just carry the week. I understand that it could be difficult, and when there's no money, then we need to rely on what we have, right? I totally get it, but let's try to stay away from that behavior. Remember, from fees, which is the cash advance fee, and then the interest could be 25%, sometimes 27% for a cash advance. So the member or the client is going to end up paying a lot of money just for taking the money out from an ATM. Okay. Next, maxing cards out. So you want to keep track on how much is spent. Just because we get a credit card with a limit of $5,000 doesn't mean that we can just go to the store and spend $5,000 worth of stuff. Because what happens is that when we get that statement and we are required to make this payment, we're gonna see that it could be challenging to make a monthly payment for a $5,000 balance. And then not only make the minimum payment, make more than the minimum payment. Otherwise, you'll spend over 10 years paying the card off. So you want to stay well under those limits. And the rule of thumb to enjoy the best credit out there is to keep your balances at or around 30% of your limits. So if you have, going back to my example, if you have a credit card for 5,000, you want to keep your balances under, what's that? 1,500, after 1,500, around 1,500 or under. If you keep those balances around there, you enjoy the most points on your credit report, one. Second, you'll be able to manage the payment easier than managing the payment for 5,000. And third, again, the amount of money that you'll be paying in interest, okay? If you make those monthly payments for a $5,000 credit card, most of that payment is gonna go to pay interest and not a principal reduction, okay? All right, excellent. Number 5, making purchases simply to earn rewards. So you guys know that many credit card companies, many credit cards out there have a reward program. Kind of like you earn points, or you earn miles, or you earn cashback. And so in many instances, we may be tempted in just using our card to get those rewards. But we have to understand how the rewards work. Yes, you'll get rewards for using the credit card, but we want to be able, we want to use this credit card when we need to, and not just use it just because. So we need, first, here my first bullet point, we need to define what a need and a want is. And many of you guys know this already, but a need is an expense that we need to purchase for us to be able to survive as human beings. So a need could be food, of course, a rent it's an expense, having a roof over our heads, clothing, of course. And a want is an expense where we just want something at the moment. We want to treat ourselves, but that doesn't mean that if we end up not buying it, that we're going to stop being who we are. And not buying this item is going to put us in risk. So when we define these two, and it's always good, before we make any purchase with a credit card, it's always good for us to ask ourselves, is this a need or a want? And if you're able to become disciplined with yourself and ask yourself that question every time you guys are about to make a purchase or buy something. Is this a need or a want? Okay, it's a need. Okay, I need it. It's a want. If it's a want, now you want to ask yourself, do I need to buy it now? Do I have to buy it with this credit card? What is my intention? Is my intention to buy this item with my credit card just to get the points on the credit card? Or is it because I really need it? So I'll give you guys a quick example, and I've been doing this for many years. And I feel bad for the credit card company that I use, but I kind of like take advantage of them, because what I do is I have a credit card that gives me points, and it gives me like 4 points for every dollar I spent in buying groceries. So that credit card that I have is always zero balance. I don't have any balance on it. And whenever I go to the store to buy food, to buy my groceries, I use the credit card. And because what happens is when I buy groceries at Stop and Shop, when I get to the register, I have 2 options. I have an option to buy the items with my debit card, and the money will come out of my debit card checking account, or I can use my credit card. So what I do is I use the credit card to get those 4 points for every dollar that I get, right? But on my way from the register to my car, I jump on my online banking, and I send the payment to that credit card exactly for the amount that I just purchased. So instead of me buying the items with my debit card and the money coming directly out of my checking account through the debit card, the money comes out of my checking account at the end of the day, but it comes out as a payment, not as a purchase. And when the money comes out of my checking account as a payment, which I'm sending to the credit card comes down to 0 once again. It's paid off. And what I'm doing is I'm earning the points from each one of these dollars that I spend with my credit card. So I've been able to rack up many points with the credit card, never carrying a balance and never paying a dime in interest. So that's something that you guys could do, but that takes, again, that takes discipline, and that takes understanding what you're doing. So when you purchase simply to earn rewards, you want to know what you're doing. You just don't want to start buying stuff just because you're getting miles, because at the end of the day, if you don't pay that money off, you're going to start making payments to interest, and then you're going to find yourself that you're in debt. And then, as I mentioned before, credit can get out of hand very quickly, and having multiple credit cards can easily, if you don't know how to manage them, can easily lead you to being stressed out, losing sleep, and sometimes even bankruptcy. Okay. All right. Now number 6, having too much credit card debt. So as mentioned before as well, try to keep your balances under 30%. You want to create a budget. And I don't know if you guys have been part of whenever I talk about budgets and put together budgets, but a budget is pretty much having control of your expenses and your income on a monthly basis, knowing exactly what those two amounts are, and then making sure that you earn more than what you spend. Okay. So when you have too much credit card debt, you could be making those minimum payments to all the different credit cards that you have. And those minimum payments could be could be very well a huge part of your budget. So we want to be able to start paying a little bit more than the minimum to help ourselves with our budget. The more we pay, then the less debt we are in. But we understand that if we're trying to get out of debt by making extra payments, we want to try not to use the credit cards anymore, because if we're reusing them again, then we're going back into the hole. Okay. Also, as members of Affinity, you guys are entitled to free credit counseling. And that's something that we offer here at Affinity for free. So we have 2 agencies. Consolidated Credit is one, and Navicor is the other one. And these 2 agencies have coaches, financial coaches, that can sit with you on a one-on-one basis and teach you how to create a budget, talk to you guys about your credit card behaviors, and what to do to change to improve your financial well-being and your financial life. So if you guys are interested, feel free to send me your email address, or before the webinar is over, give me your information and I can definitely follow up with you. Or after the webinar, if you want to shoot me an email, I can definitely respond to that email and let you know how to set up a session with one of these coaches. Lastly, procrastinating on balance transfer amounts. So it can be a smart move to transfer large balances from a high interest credit card to a credit card that you get at 0%. And you guys have seen it I'm sure you guys have seen it all over, where you guys get an offer in the mail saying you get 0% interest rate for 18 months, for example. And now you want to transfer all of your other credit card debt into this new credit card because it's available. You're not going to pay any interest. And I've seen people that use this technique to try to get out of debt. And it's fair. You can avoid paying interest while hammering away at the principal during that intro period, right? And even paying off the full balance. So that's the whole purpose, right? At the same time, it's also easy to procrastinate on small payments. So soon enough, the end of the intro period arrives. So that intro period, those 18 months, 0% is not forever. So it's 18 months, right? So when you're getting near that end of the intro period, you need to do something. You either need to move that balance away to another credit card, or you need to understand how much money you're going to be paying. And before you guys say yes to that credit card that has 0%, you guys need to read the credit card disclosures and understand what is going to be your interest rate after the promotional period, because that's the new rate that you're going to be paying if you decide to leave a balance there. So when you do that, when you transfer balances from one credit card or a couple credit cards to a one with 0%, you want to stick to the plan. So you want to sit down, you want to find out, okay, how much can I afford? I'm going to move these balances over, and I'm going to make a $450 payment every month to this credit card so I can hammer away at the balance. Stick to that plan. Make it a realistic plan. Don't just make it wishful thinking. Don't make a plan saying I want to spend, I want to send $600 a month, where the amount that you actually have available to send is $250. So make it real, make it realistic, and stick to the plan. Okay. Now, once that as I mentioned before, now that end of the 18-month period is coming, understand what you're going to leave there, or if you're going to move everything out, and what is the new interest rate. And lastly, transfer fees. So this is something that a lot of credit card companies do not advertise, but it's there. So in the credit card disclosure, before you apply for that new credit card with 0% interest rate, read what the transfer fee will be. Sometimes it's a percentage of the amount that you're transferring. So if you're transferring $10,000 worth of debt, and the percentage is, I don't know, let's say 5% of 10,000. So that was 5% of 10,000. So 5% of 1,000 is 50, right? So $500 for 10,000. So that's a lot of money that you guys will need to pay up front for just to transfer that balance over from one place to another. So that money will become part of your balance now. And so you guys need to understand how long it's going to take you to recuperate that fee that you're paying up front. Perhaps sometimes it may not be the best move. But if you guys decide to go that route with balance transfers, I just want you guys to be aware of all the different inner workings and what's behind the curtain. What are those fees? What are the new rate? What happens at the end of my promotional period? All of that you need to keep in mind before you put into place that strategy to pay off credit card balances with another credit card at 0%, right? So this brings my presentation to a close. So at this point, I would like to open up the floor for any questions that you guys may have. I'll do my best to answer the questions for all of you. If I don't know the answer, I'll make sure to follow up with you with the right answer once I find it. But I've taught credit card behavior, budgets, and credit card credit and score enhancement many years. So I feel confident that perhaps I'll be able to answer your questions. Okay, so let me take a look. All right, so very good. So there is a question here. I read a balance transfer has a negative impact on your credit score. Is that true? What's a good rule to determine if the transfer fee is worth the balance transfer? Fantastic questions, and I'll tackle the first one. Does it have a negative effect on your credit? It may. And again, I don't work for the credit card company, the credit agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian. I don't work for those agencies. But what I've been able to read and research is that it does have a negative effect on your credit, because remember when I mentioned about keeping your balances under 30% to get the best score. So when you do a balance transfer for a credit card at 0% and you're transferring, let's say, 3 different balances from 3 different credit cards, these 3 different balances could be giving you good score because they may be low balances compared to the limits, right? Hence the 30% threshold that I mentioned. But if you're going to combine those 3 balances and you're going to put everything into one credit card, that means that those three credit cards that you just paid off, they went down to 0. Okay, so those credit cards are not giving you any score anymore. And now those 3 balances combined may be well over 30% of this new credit card that you're getting. So if you got I'll give you guys an example. You got a quick example. If you guys have 3 credit cards, each one for $5,000, and you guys have a $1,500 balance on each one of these 3 credit cards. All right. So that's 30% of the 5,000. I'm making my example kind of like a perfect example, right? 3 credit cards, all balances 1,500. Okay. You're getting the best score because these 3 credit cards is giving you the most points. Now you pay them off. Now there's 0 balance, all 3 of them, and now you take the $4,500 of debt that you had, and you put it into a new credit card for $5,000 at 0%. Now your ratio is that you have a credit card for $4,500 and your limit is $5,000. So now you're way over the 30% threshold. Now you're almost at 92%. So that is going to decrease your score, even though the other 3 credit cards are paid off. The other 3 credit cards, by being 0, they're not doing anything for you. But just having one and having a large balance compared to your limit may, and I say may because I don't know, it also depends on what other credit you have out there, may lower the points, the score on your credit report. Okay. The second question: what is a good rule to determine if the balance transfer is worth the if the balance transfer fee is worth the balance transfer? So on the credit card's disclosure statement, you'll see the information there. It'll tell you what is the percentage of the transfer fee. So there is no rule to say it is worth it or not worth it. It all comes down to your lifestyle. So if you think that it's worth paying, for example, those $10,000, it's worth paying those $500 that I used in my example prior, because you really want to hammer those $10,000 out of the way, then if it makes sense for you, then it makes sense. But what I would do is I will sit down before doing any transfer, sit down, find out what that percentage is, and use a calculator and find out how much will that fee will be. And then you can make a more informed decision about making that move. If it's a fee that perhaps is $70, $80, and you don't see much harm in taking on, because you know that payoff will be to get rid of a $3,000 balance credit card, then that is your choice. So it all depends on how big your balances are. It all depends on your urgency to get out of that. But what I want to make sure with this webinar is to keep your eyes open, keep your eyes peeled with all of these different disclosures and all of these different terms and conditions out there, because many people don't know them. Many people get seduced by the 0% and then just go ahead and transfer without even knowing that there's a fee. And now they're instead of starting from 0, they're starting from negative. And then after a couple of payments, they'll be able to get up to that 0, and then from then on start making some dent on that balance transfer. So thank you so much for those 2 questions. I think they were really, really good. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right, very good. While you guys type those questions, I just wanted to remind everybody that this webinar is being recorded, and I will share the recording with all of you this evening, so you guys can rewatch it. Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions at this moment, so thank you so much. Thank you for the questions, that member that asked those questions, and thank you for your attendance. I hope this was informative. That's the point of these weekly webinars, to give you guys information so you guys can use in your daily lives and in your financial lives to increase your well-being. So I hope this was informative. I hope to see you guys, everybody. Hope to see everybody next week in the next installment of the weekly webinar. And have a great evening. Have a great afternoon. Thank you so much. I hope to talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.